slide here, we talk about non-provisional, a provisional patent. A provisional patent is fairly inexpensive, something we can assist you with and get that done quickly when there's something that has value. And that provisional patent gives us 12 months protection, full protection, that we can then go to market. We can talk to potential licensees. We can talk to potential investors. If you're thinking about a startup company, we can decide what the commercial plan is, should be, could be for your invention. And that's something that myself and my business development specialist will be working with you on, and in conjunction with the other offices on campus, such as the Small Business Development Center, we will, and even the business school for that matter, we'll be working with all of these resources, helping coordinate them, helping us assist whenever we can to find a good commercial plan for your invention. What do we do to help entrepreneurs? As I mentioned previously, Dr. Baldwin already has entrepreneur programs at the business school. We'll be working with Dr. Baldwin. He has always had a great relationship with the Division of Research and Innovation, and we will continue to do that to help entrepreneurs. We're going to be doing the faculty workshops, as I mentioned. We'll be doing technology evaluation. And when I say technology evaluation, it's not just evaluation of whether it can or should be patented or protected. Maybe, for example, a lot of software programs, we would like to patent them, but oftentimes it's very difficult to patent the software that's been developed, but we can always copyright it. And even though there's different types of copyright, from, for example, the common law copyright, which you have just because you've done something and you put the little copyright symbol on it, to a registered copyright, which is much more important and much more enforceable and has defined damages if someone infringes on your copyright. So we'll help you on that kind of evaluation. We'll be looking through the landscape of the intellectual property. There's a ton of different software programs, if you will, that allow me to search through patents that exist, not just at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, but just around the world, all the patent organizations around the world, that we can find whether your idea is really novel. Has somebody else already done it? Or if somebody's done something similar, we can help look at what it is that's different in your research, your discoveries, and help guide that formation and prototyping of your discovery so that it will be patentable, and also help to decide whether or not it's something that there's a market for. If you decide you want to start your own company, several people do. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. Can be very rewarding. We will help with how you can do that. We can't actually form the company for you. That's something you have to do. But we are there to help, not necessarily hold your hand, but guide you. I've started many, many companies over the years. I've helped make several people wealthy. I've helped make a couple of people bankrupt. So there's different, you never know when you do your own startup company how it's going to turn out. But we have a lot of experience in that area. We'll be happy to help you get your company started. We'll help you do, as a company, do your own market research and your market outreach, finding who you can sell to. One of the things that I did in College Station late last year, we had a startup company with a faculty inventor. He wasn't the only person. I found him a partner that could be actually the CEO, while that faculty inventor stayed as the technical person, chief technical officer. And I helped that startup company find a partner in Mexico that was able to get them into market much quicker than they would have been able to in the US directly. And as a result of that partnership, we were able to find that marketing outreach, if you will. They were able to get into the market much quicker and use the proceeds that they were the money they were making selling through the partner in Mexico to help fund their approval process, the Environmental Protection Agency approval process they had to do in the US, which cost around $700,000. So finding that partner in Mexico was very, very helpful for them. Industry partnerships. I mentioned previously the business development specialist and myself, as well as the rest of the division of research and innovation. We're always looking for industry partnerships which will sponsor research for our own faculty members and our grad students. So we will be outreaching, if you will. We'll be doing a lot of the research for you. We'll be happy to do that with you as well, not just for you. So when you find a contact at an organization such as NASA, for example, where they want to sponsor some of your, they're interested in your research, and we want to take them beyond being interested, we want to take them to actual sponsorship where they'll pay for the research. We'll be there to help facilitate that with you, to help develop those relationships and the contracts themselves, master research sponsorship agreements, to help get those opportunities for Prairie View inventors. I mentioned, maybe not in detail, but I am a contract attorney by trade and experience and education. So identifying how to go about taking your product to commercialization is one thing that I will be able to help you in many, many different ways. Grants, contracts, license agreements, non-disclosure agreements, the whole 9 yards. Will be able to assist in getting you from your idea to a social impact. If your invention is not something that you want to do your own startup product for or startup company, we will help identify someone who might be able to be interested in licensing it with you. And I say we will help because the main, as I mentioned previously, I strongly encourage you to publish, but after you get protection filed. But once you get the protection filed and then you publish, that's how people find out about your invention, and they'll start contacting you and wanting to know, well, what else can we do with it? And once they find out that you have a patent pending on it, then it changes the whole tenure of the conversation. And we will be there to help negotiate a license with you through TAMU IP for your product, your inventions. That leads directly to commercialization plan development support. We're going to work with you as much as you will allow us, as much as you want, to try to develop good commercialization plans so that you understand what you need to do to get to commercialization and what you need to avoid doing in order to stop that from happening. Commercialization is defined in the system policy. It's a process. It's not just, there's no one answer, one solution that fits all scenarios. Everything is different. Whether you're doing a drug, for example, whether you're doing, which I've done several of those, the whole process takes a lot longer. But without a patent and knowing that you need to file a patent, you can lose your rights to many drugs have lost their marketability, because keep in mind, no company is going to pay you to work with your invention if there's no money in it for them. And the way that there's money in it for the companies, the licensees, is if there's IP protection that they can stop other people from using it. So that's why the IP protection is not just important for your own inventions, for the ability to have a patent. It is the real value that's created, and that's what makes someone want to license your product, or someone wants to buy your product if you start your own company. What's the end game for all of this? You can see in this slide what I'm trying to capture. Prairie View, we come up with the ideas. Our people do all the research, whether it's faculty or students. It comes into ICEED. We evaluate that. We help translate your ideas into something that's marketable, find you a business partner one way or the other, whether it's your own startup company or an existing company. We also, not just the direct communication, there may be opportunities where you can collaborate with somebody else that your invention plus their invention creates a much more viable product offering than just your invention alone or their invention alone. So that's another way we try to assist, and we will be assisting you in taking your innovations to industry. Industry wins when they get your new inventions, your new ideas, your new concepts, your new products, whatever it is that you've done. That's a win for the industry. It's a win for Prairie View because we get revenue that comes back. And when I say revenue, I do want to make it clear, my focus is not just on getting money directly from the license agreements or the startup company to the university or to the individuals. I consider getting new research sponsorships a win. That's revenue that comes back to the university. Increased revenue takes the form of just cash. It also provides publicity, if you will, for Prairie View. The more people hear about the great inventions that come out of Prairie View, the more people want to come to Prairie View for their undergraduate and their graduate work. So it's a win for the Prairie View, not just in the money, but also in the research and the publicity that we get. The reputation of Prairie View will continue to grow the more we work together to get these innovations, these ideas into a product and out into the industry to create social impact. So with that, I'll open it up for questions because I know there's bound to be several. Karen, I'll let you to host that part of it, I guess.
I sure will. Happy to do it. I do have a few questions, Bobby. And one of them was earlier on, and I think you may have addressed it in your talk, but who pays for my patents as a faculty or staff inventor or student?
Okay, if you're a paid faculty, paid student, or a paid staff member, and you have an invention that the system owns, then it's up to the system to find the money to pay for those inventions. That, generally speaking, would have to come from somewhere within the Prairie View community. Dr. Rajan has assured me that he doesn't need to assure me because I've worked with him for over a year now. So I know he works very tirelessly to find revenue to support patents that need to be filed, that need to be protected. So he will work with you, he'll work with myself. We'll find industry sponsors. We're working to find, sometimes in the grants, depending on how the grants are written, you can actually use some grant money for it. So there are numerous ways to get there. So long as it's intellectual property owned by the system. If it's not owned by the system, such as a student does something on their own, that their own classwork, for example, then the student would have to pay for their own patent. But even in that case, because I did this for a student at Texas A&M in College Station, I was able to negotiate with one of my patent attorneys that I work with to do much of the work pro bono. So the legal work was done for the student. All the student had to pay for were the actual filing fees that U.S. Patent and Trademark Office requires. And that's significantly less than paying for the attorney. Attorney fees are usually $400 to $500 an hour, and that's the discounted rate that the university gets. But the filing fees might only be that much in total. So I'll be happy to work with students if there is a circumstance where that's something that they want to pursue.
Thank you. I have another question. do I have to go through ICEED, or can I work with T's or TEEX or other entities?
Yeah, a lot of times I know the T's primarily, and the Texas TEEX Educational Institute, they will work with other inventors from some of the affiliated universities like Prairie View, like Galveston, like Corpus Christi, and they will take the lead in managing the intellectual property. So nothing we will do or will implement will prevent that from happening. What we will do, what I will do, is I'll make sure that your interests, our Prairie View inventors' interests, are protected, and that it's moving, the recognition and the revenue, if there is any, is shared properly. So we're not going to stop that from happening by any means. Any assistance is always welcome, but we'll make sure that the assistance is properly applied and that we're not left out.
And I think that is a question that often comes up with any kind of invention, is who actually owns it, and if there's revenue, who actually benefits from that revenue. So yeah, I'm glad you addressed that. Here's another question. Does the university have ownership in my startup company?
Not immediately, not by definition. So if you're a faculty member or a student and you start your own company, just the fact that you started it does not give ownership of any type to the university. For about the past 6 or 7 years in College Station, I know the Mays Business School had an initiative where they were trying to encourage startup companies from faculty and vendors, and worked with the university system, where the system would take an equity position within the company in return for providing some assistance. I would caution anyone who thinks that that's the best way to go. It could be, but it's not always the best way to go, because in many instances, the faculty members were very disillusioned 2 years down the road when their company hasn't gone anywhere. And they came to me as a senior licensing manager and said, hey, the university owns 35% of my company. Why aren't you guys helping? And the answer is, well, we had no obligation to help. The way the companies was set up, you provided basically 35 to 50% in some cases of the ownership to the university in return for the university paying for the formation of your company, filing of the documents to get it started. Frankly, nowhere near worth that much equity. So in the right instances, the right circumstances, I would work with somebody to try to get university, whether it's Prairie View or the system level involvement. But for the most part, that's not something that we should worry about.
Okay, thank you for that. And this is the last question that I have here. And if there are any other questions, please don't hesitate to add them to the chat box. Do I have to tell anyone if I start my own company or business?
That's a yes and no. You do have to tell someone if you're starting your own business where you're licensing intellectual property that belongs to the system. So if you're doing that, then you have to get Board of Regents approval. Basically, it's a conflict of interest check to make sure that your focus is still on your job with the university, with the system, versus your own startup company. It's routinely granted. There's ways of protecting that. So in those instances, yes, you have to disclose that you're doing it to avoid a conflict of interest issue. But if you're just doing your own, say for example, Karen Cotton has her own
widget
franchise. What is your?
I said widget.
widget. Well, I was gonna say like a franchise. So you own a string of McDonald's up and down 290. There's nothing that would require you to notify the university that you do that. That's your own company, has nothing to do with the university, it has nothing to do with the intellectual property of the university, so there's no requirement per se for you to notify anybody about that. There may be conflict of interest issues from factors you never come to work because you're busy managing your own businesses, but that's a whole different issue. Thank you. But again, that's something ICEED, that's why we're here. We're able to answer those questions on a case-by-case basis and provide training and workshops throughout the year so that people can answer those questions before they ever become questions.
Thank you, Bobby. And I don't see any other questions in the chat. So do you have any final thoughts, Bobby?
Other than I do have a very open door. I enjoy working with entrepreneurs. I enjoy working with inventors. I have my name on a few patents of my own that I'm an inventor. I don't own them, but I am an inventor. So I think the whole process is a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding just to have just to be able to come up with something that nobody else has done, even if I never made a dime off of it, which has been the case with my inventions, but I still enjoy doing it.
Okay, well, thank you, Bobby. Again, thank you, Bobby Melvin, for providing a training today on ICEED and giving us the very latest on what's happening in the ICEED world. And I have put your contact information in the chat box. So if you have any questions and you didn't want to ask them in this open forum, please be sure to contact Bobby using his email address that's listed there in the chat. I also encourage you to please complete the brief survey about the training today. There is a link to the survey in the chat box. And I'm also going to put in the chat box a link to our upcoming Research and Innovation Week. That will be on April 5th through the 9th, Research and Innovation Week. It's coming up pretty quickly. There will be a day dedicated to faculty research, another day dedicated to undergraduate research, and then we'll have our inaugural International Symposium of Undergraduate Research Excellence, also known as ISURE. We'll have a Graduate Research Day, an Innovation Day that Bobby will spearhead, and then we'll have an event on Friday that is the Awards and Recognition Ceremony, recognizing all who have participated and providing information about awards that have been provided. We certainly hope that you'll join us for our Research and Innovation Week. There is a link again in the chat box now that you can use to make sure that you get registered so that you can participate and find out what wonderful research is happening here on the Hill. Thank you again for joining us for today's RITI session, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.